Welcome to the Crush Your Sugar Craving Summit. I'm Michelle Jolly with Healthy Horizons Coaching. Today we'll be interviewing Dr. Nisha Chellam. Dr. Nisha is a traditionally trained MD. She calls herself a recovering physician who has chosen to move away from medications as the only option for sick patients. Using the principles of functional medicine, she is able to transform people's lives and mindset so that they may live a life of joy and love. Let's welcome Dr. Nisha. Thanks for being here today. Yeah, so good to have you. I'm excited about your view on the sugar issue.
Absolutely. I'm excited to tell you about it.
Yeah. So let's start out kind of getting into how you got to this place. How did you get into health and wellness? Why is it important to you? What's your story?
Yes. I think my story is very familiar with people who have seen other functional medical doctors talk. I am a traditionally trained MD, so I'm an internist, and internal medicine was really my joy. I used to be a hospitalist, which means I just took care of patients who got admitted to the hospital, and I really enjoyed it. I would have night shifts, weekends, and I would see sickest patients. We get all these consults, specialists come and see. We get them out of the jaws of death and get them home, right? And it was very heroic. Except that I realized 6 months into my job, my very first job as a hospitalist, it's the same people that come through the revolving door. Even then, it did not hit me like women aren't doing anything. We were just managing the disease to be more bearable for the patient. After I became a mother, I decided to do outpatient medicines, which is what most of us are familiar with. We go to the doctors, we do a physical, we do testing, and that was my life for almost 10 years at the Veterans Administration. I enjoyed my work there, but somewhere halfway through, I would say the 5th year, I realized I am following every guideline in medicine. Like, you're a diabetic, so I put you on the 4 medicines, which is a standard of care, addressing your cholesterol, addressing your blood sugars, protecting you from heart disease and kidney disease. And yet, all those numbers look good, and you are here declining because now you have a new problem of arthritis. You have reflux disease, like you're having heartburn, or you're having depression. And the list of diseases kept increasing, though the more medications I added to address their symptoms. So it didn't make sense to me to connect that the fact is we're just playing whack-a-mole with people's lives. You come in with a problem, you want to know what it is more than why you have it. Oh, you have fibromyalgia. Well, I have a diagnosis. What's the treatment? Here's your treatment. And that's what we were doing. And I really feel 20 years from now, a computer will do this. You don't need a doctor to do this because you're just putting symptoms and you're spitting out a diagnosis. And I think computers will do it much better than physicians, right? It doesn't have to depend on our mood on that day, how overwhelmed we are. It's just input and data output. That did not make sense to me because patients under my care, even though I did everything that I was being taught to do, even though I updated myself every year, getting my continuing medical education, my patients got sicker. There was a very small group of people. They'd come in, you treat them, they get better, and usually it's infections. It never were these chronic medical conditions, and that's the leading cause of death. So, like a lot of physicians, one of the things I learned is I had this one odd patient who refused to take any medicines for any of his diagnosis. He said, I'm going to figure this out. And he actually came back 2 years later to see me with everything resolved. And it was like, totally mind-blowing because this condition was osteoporosis. He had very severe osteoporosis and his bone density actually improved without medication. So when I sat and had that chat with him, he spoke about this holistic world, supplement world. And I'm like, wow, there's a world like that outside of what I know, because as far as I know, that's all bogus, right? And so I needed to, but I see the results of what I see in my patients. That's undeniable. And that's how in my quest to find a science behind it is how I came upon functional medicine. And functional medicine, for people who don't understand it, is a little different from holistic and integrative, though we all get clubbed into an alternative way. Functional medicine is just an extension of traditional medicine. The only thing is how you think about the symptom is a little different. So instead of asking, what do you have? Do you have hypertension? Do you have fibromyalgia? Do you have hypothyroidism? I'm asking the question, why do you have these symptoms that seem to be like a low thyroid function? Why is your thyroid functioning, not functioning? What is happening to your body, or what is the thyroid responding to? So when I ask that question, why do you have it? I'm also asking that question, what does your body need so that it doesn't dysfunction? Or what do I need to remove from its path of healing so it can actually heal? So once you ask these two questions, how do you come to the answers? You do testing. You take a very detailed history, you do testing. This testing will actually get you in the right direction of where things are not working. And once I have that, I call it the blueprint of the cell. Once I have that, it is so easy to give guidance to a patient to say, these are the things you need to do to resolve this problem, not walk around saying I'm a diabetic, or I struggle with fibromyalgia, or I have a family history of cancer, so I am at a risk for cancer. None of that. All those are stories both the physicians and patients tell each other to keep the business going. The truth of the matter is you can get better. Your physician is not trained, a traditional physician is not trained to make you healthy, but it's really trained to help you feel better. There's a difference between getting truly healthy and feeling better. And you have the choice to differentiate between the two. You know, I just want to take a medicine. I want to continue drinking every evening. I want to continue being a couch potato, watch TV. I want to eat my tub of ice cream, just control all my symptoms. You have that choice, but you also have the other choice of saying, tell me what I need to do to keep my body at the greatest, the peak health or the optimal health it needs to be, so I have the freedom to live my life the way I want to. And even if I ate an ice cream once in a while, it's not like everything is going to fall apart. How do I get to that point of health and vitality? You have that choice too. But the physicians who approach these two are completely different. They're trained differently, and that's going to be what I think most people need to know. So finding a functional medical doctor is different from finding a functional medical practitioner. So a practitioner could have any training, right? They could be a nurse practitioner, they could be a physician assistant, they could be a chiropractor, they could be a naturopath. They're all good choices, but each one is specialized in their certain area of training. When you're really trying to get to the root cause of a complex disease process, I think you're best served by going to an MD/DO, because I always say you want a physician who knows the enemy, as well as knows like the science of the disease, as well as the art of healing from it. And that's why I took this path, because this not only gives me personal satisfaction, but it also helps my patients stay on target and stay healthy, because our goal is not lifespan. I think we're all going to live long. But I think our true challenge is, how do we stay healthy till the day we die? And that's the mission that I am on. And that's where my practice is that's what my practice is focused on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great information. Yeah. Learning more about, the different types of medicine and doctors and things. Yeah, love that. Yeah. So, kind of bringing sugar into things.
Yes.
What does sugar do in our bodies? We've heard from other people on the summit about the inflammation leading to chronic disease. What kind of things can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. So let's look at where sugar comes from. When you traditionally look at sugar, it came from sugar cane. And sugar cane is a harvested plant during August and September. In the countries that grow sugarcane. I come from India, so I remember as a child, the sugarcane was available for us to chew on. It's like a cane, just like the candy cane, but it's a very thick cane with a lot of fiber, and you bite it, and literally it's almost sucking onto it, and you get the sugarcane juice. But it comes during August and September, and I think the way nature has it, the reason you have in August and September the sugarcane harvest is during the winter season you cannot grow much in many parts of the world. There's no vegetation, right? You can't grow because it's cold. The soil is not warm. There's a lot. There's not enough sunlight. It's either snowing or it's too cold or it's raining. Something happens. So nature has designed such that around August, September, you can load up on sugar. And what does sugar do? It stimulates the production of insulin in our body. And what's the purpose of insulin is, I call the insulin the stock, like the stock man, the person who stocks stuff in a warehouse. So it'll stock the sugar into fat. So you begin to, traditionally, human beings gain about 10 to 20 pounds during winter. And then as the harvest season comes up, early part, in India, it's in late January. In other parts, it could be April. You have enough fat in your body to utilize for the energy, and you lose it all before the harvest season. And then you're able to eat fruits and vegetables or whatever is harvested, the grains that come up. But instead, what has happened, and sugar from the sugar cane is very expensive. And most of the times the kings, it was like a delicacy. You can just, not everybody could buy sugar like we do today. But over a period of time, we have figured out how to get sugar from corn, sugar from beets, and the type of sugar has changed. And now we have sugar 365 days of the year available, and everybody can afford sugar. It's just the quality of the sugar is different. It's not from the sugar cane, and that's why we pay a lot to buy cane sugar. Now, the problem with that is if you take from morning till night, the amount of sugar we consume, it's almost, it's like 25 grams is our limit. And we consume close to 65 to 120 a day. It's like nonstop. So what does sugar do? You will find that people who struggle with what they call hypoglycemia, like my sugar drops, so I have to have some candy. Those are the folks where they're consuming way too much sugar, and they keep that cycle. So we have the cycle of high and low sugar, high and low insulin. And eventually all of that sugar gets accumulated at fat cells, because that's how it gets stored. These fat cells give out inflammation. They act as an endocrine organ and give out adiponectin, a hormone, and they have all these inflammatory markers. So people who accumulate fat, particularly in the midsection, tend to be inflamed. And chronic inflammation leads to chronic diseases, right? So if you're struggling with weight loss, if you're struggling with migraine headaches, if you're struggling with arthritis, if you're struggling with insomnia, if you're struggling with diabetes, high blood sugars, or persistent, I'm pre-diabetic for the last 10 years, right? My hemoglobin A1C has been 5.7, it's not moving. Those are all signs. Your body is struggling to keep it there, keep the inflammation down. So you don't have any disease, but you have a whole bunch of dysfunction, which does not stop you from living your life, which is why people don't pay attention. We are conditioned to see a doctor when something hurts. We are not conditioned to see the doctor when the very first time your weight increases, right? You just buy bigger pants or pants with elasticity or stretchable. You don't, because you still can go to work, you can still take care of your kids, you can still do all the things you've always done. The time you think about the doctor is when you are unable to function. And what I want to tell people is just look at this. Look at the labels of all the foods you eat. Find out how much sugar you're consuming. And here's the other tricky part. Sugar doesn't show up on the labels as sugar. It shows up as maltodextrin, dextrose. It shows up as corn syrup or rice syrup or natural flavors, right? So many hidden words. There are, I think, 55 to 65 different names for sugars. And pretty much everything that's processed has sugar in it. It may say zero added sugar, but it'll have a whole lot of carbohydrates. So there's a lot, and you have to look at the contents too. If it's totally grain-based and they have all these other flavors added to it, you're potentially adding, probably having sugar. The other thing you have to keep in mind, when you eat, if it is sweet, you probably have sugar in it. Now people are getting more health conscious, so many of the commercial products are adding stuff like stevia or natural sugars that people say, oh, maple syrup, it is sugar. Honey, it is sugar. You have diabetes, your sugar is going to go up, your insulin is going to go up, your fat cells are going to accumulate. Just because they are natural doesn't make them any better. And I can't emphasize this. A number of times I have people who come and tell me, I don't eat any sugar, I just use a little honey or a little maple syrup. So I feel like there's so much of confusion about not adding salt, not adding sugar, that I can't blame a consumer. I feel there's a lot of education that has to be done. That's why your summit is such a useful thing for most people, because I'm sure there are other speakers who are experts in this field who can tell them, like, you have hidden sugars in just about everything that is processed. So shifting to eating natural foods, but even when you shift to eating natural foods, what do most people do? They shift to fruits. Fruits are, again, seasonal. Believe it or not, fruits are not supposed to be eaten 365 days of the year. During the winter season, we don't get to have fruits. So what has happened is our body has learned to store a lot of this. And when we store that excess fat, you stay in a chronically inflamed state. It doesn't be just diabetes, it's just chronic inflammation. And how does one overcome that? And this is where first is the awareness, right? You got to be aware that you're eating. If you keep denying and saying, I don't have, it's like an alcoholic who says, I can stop drinking anytime, I have no problems. We see that all the time. And it's not they're at fault. That's the nature of this addiction. You don't think you're eating enough sugar, right? So people struggle with that. So having that awareness is the first step. And then the second step is realizing all sugars are sugars. It doesn't matter whether it's honey, maple syrup, I don't know what other things people use, monk fruit. And there are some sugars that are being made chemically, like allulose, that doesn't raise your blood sugar. And then stevia has been studied. If you go to, there is a beautiful website called sugarscience.org. It's by UCLA. They do a lot of research on sugar. You can actually go in there and look at all the hidden sugars. They have a list of hidden sugars. They have beautiful videos there. So if people are really struggling, get yourself educated on where you might be eating sugar. And even drinking smoothies with a lot of fruits, that is sugar. That's a lot of fructose. And fructose, even from a natural state, when you overdo it and when you do it out of season, you are going to accumulate weight, because we're designed for that. We're designed to survive starvation. The problem is none of us ever starve. Right? We're always in a world of abundance. I mean, at 2 a.m., if I wake up and my fridge is empty, I want a meal, I can get a meal in this country.
Right. Yeah.
There is a Coney Island that is open 24 hours. There is a Taco Bell that's open 24 hours through a drive-through. I can get to eat. So we need to have that awareness. If you're eating so much, if you're constantly eating every 2 hours, you have a problem with sugar. Yeah. And most people don't realize that. You know, if I'm hungry, I will shake. You're going to be a diabetic 25 years from now. This is the time to fix it. And I think having that awareness, understanding not all sugar is sugar, It doesn't matter what the source is. And sugar should not be consumed, just even fruits should not be consumed 365 days of the year. Sugar is something that you use as special occasions.
Yeah.
Once a week, you're baking, you add it. That's great. So I think that has been my journey with how seeing why people struggle with inflammation and sugar-related problems. In fact, I think liquid sugar, when I say it's like liquid gold, right? Liquid sugar, which is like adding sugar to your coffee, sugar to your tea, to your beverages, or hot chocolate, which has already sugar in it, or juices. Those are the ones that find their way to the colon because it just passes through, and really the risk for colon cancer increases. Sugar is just that one thing that puts you at a high risk, not only for metabolic dysfunction, which is weight gain and insulin resistance and cardiovascular, it also puts you at a high risk for colon cancer.
Yeah. We've had a couple chefs on talking about how they cook using things like the swerve and the alternative sugars. How do you feel like, I've heard that it kind of still makes your body think that the sugar is coming, so it's almost worse? Is that?
Yep. Yeah. So like Splenda, Equal, and Sweet and Low, and then any of the alternative synthetic substances that create that feeling of sugar, it's something to do with the gut microbiome. That's where the shift happens. In fact, I think there was a study that did Diet Coke versus Coke, and people who drank Diet Coke tend to be more obese. I don't know if it's because they're comfortable, they're drinking Diet Coke, so they tend to drink more of it. And that's one. And number two, the gut microbiome gets altered. And remember, a lot of our weight issues are due to gut microbiome. Then people think it's the hormones, but your hormones and your vitamins are determined, or the gut microbiome has a big say in it. And those studies have been done where you take the gut microbiome or the gut poop from a fat rat and put it into a thin rat, and the thin rat becomes fat. Just that one shift, right? The chow is the same. You're just changing the microbiome, which is the group of bacteria that interact with us. So I think when you do sugar alternative, this is what I tell my patients. First, you need to break up with sugar. It's not good for you to be in constant relationship with it. So when you're looking for an alternative, you're trying a alternative relationship with it, but you're still in a relationship with it. So you really need to break up. Once you break up, you have to come back to it having addressed the addiction part. And the addiction part goes away when you shift your gut microbiome. And the way you shift the gut microbiome is to eat food that is high in fiber. The other big I would say misinformation that's out there is the high protein diet. People clamor for high protein diet. They talk to me about how their diet is so high in protein and they eat clean. I don't know what eating clean means. I don't know what a high protein diet looks like, but you don't need so much protein unless you're out in the gym working 6 hours a day lifting weights. You don't need so much protein. So I think with the high protein diet, you're losing fiber. Because protein can come from two sources: animal protein, which is what most people consider as protein, and plant protein. And plant protein has fiber, animal protein has fat. The protein-fat combination disrupts your gut and disrupts your hormones. It causes the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO. And the protein with fiber is really what needs to happen. So when you take out sugar and you reduce the amount of animal protein and increase the fiber, your whole health will shift. And this is something I really teach our patients how to do that. This is not easy. I mean, it's very simple when I say it. It's like, eat more beans, greens, and vegetables, and cut down on your meat and your sugar. It's easier said than done. people will die if they just did that overnight, right?
Yeah.
And I see that. I acknowledge that that is a very difficult task. So I tell people the change has to come. You need support, and that's what we provide. And otherwise, all what we need to do is just give a list of foods you got to eat. Nobody ever looks at that. They don't know how to cook it. So it's actually palatable. And vegetables in general are not like great to eat raw. There are very few vegetables you can eat raw. Fruits can be eaten because they have the fructose in them. So there's a lot that has to change. But in general, this is what I would say. First, have an awareness that you have an addiction problem. Even if you don't want to call it addiction, that you love sugar or you love sweet stuff. Then second, understand sugar is hidden in a lot of things, even if you're not eating naturally, like cookies. You may say, I'm not eating cakes, cookies, I don't eat anything sweet, but I eat a whole bunch of pasta and white rice and white bread with jelly that I make at home. It doesn't matter. All of that is sugar, right? Now you're pretty much high on sugar. So have an awareness and then shift your gut bacteria by adding more fiber, cutting back on the dead foods. The dead foods are meat. It's like eating dead flesh, right? When you eat meat and you're doing it 3 times a day, that's too much. I would say 3 times a week is okay. That's reasonable. And rest of it, eat lots of beans, greens, fibrous vegetables, and you will find that the shift will happen. And all of the inflammation goes down, the bloating sensation goes down. Some people struggle with it. I would say when they switch to more fiber, if they've been, refined carbs and fat and protein diet, which is the standard American diet or the SAD diet. So that's where you will need help. So I would say get some guidance because you want to do it once and you want to do it well. Right? You don't want to be trying and getting disappointed and then having all these negative feelings towards changing your diet. So I feel like once you make that decision, hey, I need help with this, get the right person who you resonate with and walk that journey to resolve that issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Great advice. Yeah. Little things we can take away today and just look into and
right.
In our time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're coming to the end. It goes so fast and there's so many questions and things we could talk about, but we're finishing up. So I don't know if there's one other little thing you want to mention to people to send them off.
So I know we have one of the things that my practice does is it does this one-on-one with patients and with group coaching with patients. But I realize a lot of people don't have the time or the ability to invest in something like to be coached one-on-one. So I've been able to put like a online course that they can actually be a part of, particularly if they're struggling with insulin resistance and diabetes. And it's a phenomenal step-by-step, and it actually goes for a year. You will have live support, but in a group setting. And it just makes it so much easier for people to make that transition. So it'll tell you exactly how to set up your kitchen, how to set up your pantry, how to cook. We have cooking. We do live Zoom cooking. So it's amazing how that works out. And I think most people will have that solution if that's what they're looking for, right? If I've tried every diet under the sun, I need to resolve my diabetes or I need to get rid of my insulin resistance. That's the course I put in, because this is, I would say this has been a 22-year-old journey for me to get to that point of almost 65% by 2025 of our 65 years and above age folks are going to be diabetics by 2025. We're already at 50%. So this is not a good picture. And teenagers, 50% of them have insulin resistance. So this is a long problem for us. And that is feeding into our, not longevity, I would say we are dying longer, right? We start dying from the age of 35 all the way up to 90. And in the last 2 decades of life, the most money that we saved, we worked hard for, goes away to a nursing home or to an assisted living, and you don't even have a say in your life, and you don't want life to end that way. So take care of your inflammation very, very early. Have an awareness how your environment can change and how you can rebuild your health from inside out. And that's the mission of our practice, and that's really what I wanted to offer your audience too. And I think you have the link to help them get the discounted coupon to join the practice.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah. So, well,
Yeah.
yeah, you have your free gift of kind of a little bit of a list of things that people want to look for when testing, like their blood work and stuff, to see
Yes.
where they are, kind
Yeah.
of help them realize it might be time to look into this. And then, yeah,
Yeah.
that wonderful discount you're offering on the program that you just
Yes.
mentioned. Yeah, such a great gift for everyone. So that's
Yeah. Thank you.
below
Yeah.
the video here, or then click that and then put your name in there, and then you'll be all ready for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to give that opportunity to people too. I do appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks so much. Well, it's been great having you today. Went too fast, but yeah, people can connect with you and get on your email list and learn more. Where else can they find you? Where's a good place to find you?
So you can go to holisticicon.com. That's our website. The Facebook page is under my name, Nisha Chellam, MD. And we have a community called Holistic Icon Community. The icon stands for Integrative Center of Novi. Novi is the city in which I practice. So it's very easy to find us. There are a lot of videos if people want more education. And if my message resonates with them, I mean, not every one of us is a good fit for everyone. For some people, it resonates well. Listen to more of my videos because there's a lot of free information that I put out there so people can find their optimal well-being.
Yeah. Yeah. So great. All your resources and everything. So helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so it's been great again having you, and we want to say goodbye to everyone that's been watching, and we'll look for you tomorrow on the next video. Thanks for coming. Bye.
Thank you.